Hello Fearseekers, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be diving into some disturbing, allegedly true, Christmas horror stories. If you enjoy the content and want to help the channel grow, consider leaving a like and subscribing to keep up with future videos. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas, and I'll see you again in the new year. Now without further ado, sit back, put any idea of sleep away, and get ready to ferment your fears. This story takes place 4 years ago, and it still haunts me to this day. It was Christmas night, and my family were driving home from this fancy restaurant. I, unlike my family, wasn't tired, so the 45-minute drive seemed perpetual. On top of that, my little sister was constantly moaning about how her friend didn't get her anything for Christmas. After about 20 minutes of driving, my dad stopped at a gas station to get some cigarettes, and my sister, brother, and mother all got out to pee. I stayed in the car as I had already gone before we left. Once they all left, I decided to play a few games on my phone. I looked at the car clock and saw that 10 minutes had passed, so I immediately wondered what was taking them so long. As soon as I peered out the car window, I saw a man staring at our car. The man startled me as I didn't know how long he had been watching. What made it even more unnerving is that he had a straight blank face, no expression was shown. It was hard to make out any features as it was pretty dark, and he wasn't standing in an illuminated part of the station. He was about 5'9" and looked to be middle-aged. Once he saw me notice him, he started walking towards the car, and I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't scared. Luckily, my dad came back with the rest of the family just as the man took a couple of steps. My dad apologized and told me he had been in an argument with the cashier. I didn't care. I was just glad that my dad was with me. I took another glance at the man outside, and he was still staring, but this time he had an annoyed look on his face. We drove off, and for the rest of the car ride, I couldn't stop thinking about that man. This wouldn't have been too bad if it had ended there, but it didn't. Later that night, I was watching YouTube while everyone else slept, and luckily for me, a storm was raging over us. I enjoy storms. It makes me cozy as I'm lying in bed. I put my phone down and just enjoyed the ambience. That didn't last for long as I heard something smash into the window behind me. I lurched forward and nearly fell out of the bed. I thought a bird had just smashed into the window. I parted the blinds, and what I saw next haunted me. I saw a man standing out by my parents' cars, looking up at my room. I took a closer look, and I nearly had a heart attack. It was the same man that I saw at the gas station, only this time, when our eyes met, he grinned. Being the 14-year-old I was, I did the manly thing and screamed at the top of my lungs. My dad came running down the stairs and entered my room. "Why the hell are you screaming?" he said. I told him about the man, and I explained everything that had happened. My dad grabbed a baseball bat and told me to call the police. After 10 minutes, the police turned up outside our house and found the man in our shed. He got arrested, and that was the last time I saw him. The next day, my dad inspected the house, and we found the handle of our back door had been damaged, but not completely broken. This gives me an eerie feeling, as if he actually managed to get in, he could have harmed us or possibly killed us. A few years back, I had a really terrifying experience during the Christmas season. I am married and I have children. I have a boy and a girl. My son had already grown out of believing in Santa Claus, but my daughter was young enough to maintain her belief. In fact, she was always looking forward to heading to the mall so she could ask for what she wanted for Christmas. That year was no different. She was all joy and happiness as we headed off to the mall to make the yearly visit. My son, of course, would not be taking part in the sitting on his lap and would likely spend most of his time in the video game store or the arcade. But my daughter's face was lit up brighter than the star on the tree. The line at the mall was long. I mean, that made sense since it was the weekend before Christmas. So we were going to have a really long wait. It wasn't a problem though, because her excitement was apparent throughout the entire wait. When my daughter finally got to sit on his lap, she seemed fine at first. However, after a moment or two, her expression changed. She began to look scared, and then she began to squirm. For the first time ever, my daughter jumped off his lap, ran over to me, and buried her face against my leg. I was surprised, but I guess I just figured it could have been any number of things that had spooked her. The rest of the time at the mall, she kept as close to me as possible. She insisted that I hold her hand throughout the entire time. I began wondering if maybe she was just a bit freaked by the number of people at the mall. We did a last little bit of Christmas shopping, and then I gathered the children together to head home. The ride home was no better. My daughter insisted sitting in the front seat, which annoyed her brother to death. But I let her do it. She just seemed agitated the entire way home. At home, things were just like they had been. My daughter was upset by something, and I had to ask her what was wrong. However, the only response was that she would shake her head, indicating that she was not going to tell me. This went on for the next day or so, and I really could not begin to even understand what was wrong with her. She seemed nervous. Hell, she would not even lay in front of the Christmas tree and look at the lights, which had been one of her favorite things to do. It continued up until Christmas Eve. I wanted to go ahead and put the kids to bed so they could get up early in the morning. My son had no issue with it, but my daughter began to panic. She tried to keep from going to bed. When I told her she had to go to sleep or Santa Claus would not be coming, she actually told me that she didn't want him to come. She asked me to do whatever I could to keep him from coming. Well, of course I was confused. When I asked her what was wrong, she again shook her head. I tried to explain to her that if she was scared of something, the best way to get me to be able to protect her would be to tell me what she was scared of. After pausing for a few moments, my daughter finally revealed why she had been so upset for the past few days. At the mall, when she was sitting on Santa Claus's lap, she said he whispered, "If you've been naughty at all, I'll be coming to kill you on Christmas Eve when you fall asleep." My daughter was upset because she knew she hadn't been 100% good all the time. I was furious, of course, but I couldn't do anything about the mall clause that night. So instead, I told my daughter that the man wasn't the real Santa Claus and that the real Santa Claus wouldn't hurt her no matter what. She wasn't convinced. So I asked her if she had ever been naughty in previous years. She admitted she had. And I told her Santa Claus hadn't hurt her those years, so why would he this year? Amazingly enough, that actually worked. I also stayed in the room with her until she went to sleep. In the morning, she was finally fine and we had a great holiday. I reported the mall Santa Claus to the mall, but without any evidence other than our word, they couldn't do anything about it. When I was younger, I recall my older brother always trying to keep me from believing in Santa Claus. It was like a mission of his. I never really knew why, but whenever he had a chance to try and prevent me from believing, he would. On one occasion, while both of my parents were not at home, he snuck me into their room and opened the closet. He showed me the presents, not yet wrapped. That wasn't enough to cause me any issue until later that year when the presents I had seen were tagged from Santa Claus. I eventually brought this up to my parents, and they told me that Santa Claus brings some presents and the parents buy some too. I was quite happy with that explanation. I needed to get that information out of the way, because it does affect what happened one Christmas morning when I was 11 years old. In the weeks leading up to Christmas, there were presents from the family being put under the tree, and bit by bit, the tree was getting filled with presents. Hell, by Christmas Eve, I was surprised that Santa Claus would be able to fit anything extra under there. It was a pretty good present year. I remember going to sleep that night, my belief in Santa Claus as strong as ever. And when I woke up, I recall going downstairs to check out the Christmas tree, which had gained so many more presents. It was an exciting morning. Of course, we all had to wait until breakfast before we began opening the presents up, but that was minor. And once it was done, we began. Every year we picked one person to go under the tree and find a present for each member of the family, and this year was no different. I got a lot of really nice things that year. Little by little, the presents under the tree began to deplete. The floor was covered with wrapping paper and there were gifts everywhere. Now, almost everything had been opened. My mom went over to the tree and she picked up a box. It was wrapped in different paper than any of the other presents had been. It didn't have a bow on it either. All it had was a name label on it and it was to me, but there was no indication as to who the present was from. My mom gave my dad a weird look, and I recall seeing him shrug. So she just then handed the present over to me. I got the wrapping paper off of the present pretty quickly. It was like a plastic Tupperware container, opaque so you couldn't see what was inside it. I was further confused, but decided to open the container to find out what was in it. The stench from the container was overwhelming. Laying inside the container were several dead and decomposing snakes. I, being 11 years old, and at this point extremely frightened, screamed and jumped back from the container. My dad went over to it and saw what had scared me. He immediately turned to my brother, asking him if he had done this. My brother, however, seemed just as frightened as I had been. Plus we had no idea how we would have gotten snakes, let alone killed them. My dad took the container, sealed it, and went into his garage. At first, the only thing that had me worried was the present itself. I was too scared to even consider the possibility that the only way it could have gotten under the tree was if someone had broken into the house. But when my dad returned from the garage, he explained to my mom that the garage door was ajar. It was open just enough so that someone would have been able to roll under it. Someone had indeed broken into our home and left the ghastly present under the tree for me. We didn't have anything like CCTV cameras or anything like that. There was nothing to indicate who the person that broke in was. My parents ended up not calling the police, figuring Christmas had been tainted enough without taking it further. I never found out who left that present under the tree. I figured maybe it was a neighborhood bully and that they would give themselves away by gloating about it. No such luck. No one outside of my immediate family ever expressed any knowledge of that bizarre Christmas gift, and to this day I don't know who, how, or why it was left for me. My first year in college, I wasn't able to afford to travel home for Christmas break, or winter break, whichever one you want to call it. I stayed in my dorm room for the entire period of time. My parents shipped my Christmas presents to me, and I really dreaded my very first Christmas all by myself. Now, I have heard plenty of stories from other students who had to spend time in their dormitories all alone. Most of them tell about how lonely and isolating one can feel being in such big buildings all by themselves. My experience was very much like that too. The semester was over in early December, and that very weekend there was a mass exodus of students from campus. By Sunday morning, the campus had turned into a barren tundra, frozen and empty. There was still a few weeks until Christmas though. I have to admit that as the days went by and the loneliness became worse and worse, I began enjoying a little bit too much to drink. And by the time that Christmas had actually come around, I was really dying for some contact with some other people. I wanted to go out to a bar, but I was only 19, and although I could easily get alcohol from the liquor store that was known for never carding, I wasn't brave enough to go into a bar all by myself. I did, however, begin talking to a townie about a week before Christmas. It was online. I was telling him how much the cabin fever was getting to me, and I was not brave enough to go to a bar. He told me that he was having a Christmas party on Christmas Eve, and that I could come over if I wanted to. I had been on the fence about whether I wanted to go to a stranger's house on Christmas Eve. However, I was so lonely by the time that it came around that all of my hang-ups were gone. I checked with him and got the address. I didn't have a car, so I had to walk over to his house. It wasn't too bad of a walk, even though it was really cold outside. It was also snowing that evening. I walked through town, following the directions I was given. I ended up going down a street and eventually finding a brick townhouse with the address on it. I had to check to make sure, because there were no lights on in the house at all. There were no cars on the street either. While I texted the guy, I walked past the house. I asked him to confirm the address, and he did. I then casually asked him how the party was going. He told me that there were a lot of people at the house and that the party was hopping. He was looking forward to me getting there. I couldn't figure it out. I mean, there was no indication in any way that anyone, much less a whole party full of people, were in that house. So, I worked up my nerve and decided to walk past the house again. I checked the direction of the street, wondering maybe if the house I had gone by had a south address and not a north one. Nope. Everything indicated that the dark house I had gone by was the place that this party was supposedly going on at. So what was I going to do? The situation was just really weird. I considered just walking up to the house and knocking on the door. Maybe everyone had walked and the party was going on in the basement. I didn't know, but I couldn't explain the darkness and lack of cars when there was supposedly a hopping party going on. I walked down an alley in order to check out the back of the house. There was nothing different. I couldn't find any windows to a basement to see if there were any lights on. It was while I was standing there in the alley, trying to figure out what to do, when I heard a horrible scream of agony coming from inside the house. I stood there for a moment before I panicked and moved up against the wall. That's when I heard another horrible, agonized sound. It was definitely coming from inside the house. I left the alley and ran a few houses away. I then called the police and reported what I saw, anonymously. A night later, there was a news report on the television. 2 men were arrested for torturing a college student in that house. The defendants claimed it was hazing, but that didn't help them any. I knew it wasn't hazing though because I had been invited to the house too, and I was sure the other guy was as well. And Lord knows I wasn't a member of a frat. Hey guys. Glad to see you made it to the end of the video. Have you ever had a creepy encounter over the holidays? Make sure to let me know in the comments below. If you have any stories you'd like to be narrated, be sure to send them in. Alright guys, that just about wraps up the video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. So long, Fearseekers. I'll see you in the next video.
She's not dead.